Hello guys, welcome to my channel of Accounting Brains. In today's class, we are going to do some sums regarding the items of inflows and outflows that will be included in the three basic activities that we have done in a previous class, that is operating activities, financing activities and investing activities. For this, please watch my previous class for the better understanding. For the first sum, identify which of the following are operating activities. So this is the first sum which I will be showing you. I will list you some items and we have to identify that which is operating activity and which is not. So my first item is cash received from sale of goods. So the first item is cash received from sale of goods. So this is an operating activity because, as I said in the earlier class, the sale of goods is always be included in the operating activities. So yes, it is a operating activity. My second item is cash paid for purchase of stock. Whenever there is a sale, we all know the cash is received, and whenever there is a purchase, we always talk about the cash is paid. So, as I told you, the sale of goods will involve the operating activities. Similarly, if any purchase of stock or any purchase of goods will involve the operating activities. So, the answer is that yes, it is also a operating activity. Now, my third item is salaries and wages paid. Salaries and wages paid. As in the previous class, I have shown you a list that what are the items that were included in the operating activities. So you have just seen in the items that there is a salary and wages paid, which is an operating expenses. So this is also an item of an operating activity and will be included in operating activity. So yes, it is a operating activity because the salary and wages are operating expenses. My fourth item is payment of interest on loan. When any interest is paid on loan, it is not an operating activity. Any payment of interest on loan is always a financing activity. Whenever there is any item that is regarding the payment of interest, it will always be considered as a financing activity, not an operating activity or a investing activity. So no, it is not a operating activity. Number 5, repayment of loan. Here the repayment of loan, any repayment of loan is also not a operating activity, it's a financing activity. So no, it is not a operating activity. I'm just writing here OA. 6, purchase of machinery or sale of machinery. These both are not a operating activity, they are an investing activity, so it is not a operating activity. Rather, they are an investing activity. Here, they are a financing activity and here also a financing activity. When any dividend is paid or any interest is paid, it is also not an operating activity, it will be a financing activity. So here I am done with my sum number 1. That in this first sum we have learned that what are the activities what are the items that will be included in the operating activities, what will be the inflows, what will be the outflows, and what activities are the operating activities and what are not. For my second sum, so here is my second sum. Here we have to identify which of the following are investing activities. In this, my first item will be here. In this sum, you have to identify that which of the item is in investing activities and which are not. So my first item is proceeds from sale of fixed asset. When any fixed asset is sold or any fixed asset is purchased, we always say that it is an investing activity. So it's very clear. Your answer will be yes, it is a investing activity. Here I am just writing IA. Number 2, repayment of loan. Here we have done earlier the repayment of loan is not a operating activity and not an investing activity, it's a financing activity. So the answer is a simple no, it is not a investing activity, rather it's a financing activity. For my convenience, I'm writing here as a IA, FA or a OA, but you better write as a operating activity, investing activity and a financing activity. Where debentures are purchased, now here the debentures are a source of investment. Here the debentures are a source of investment. So here the debentures are a source of investment which are included in the investing activities. So yes, it is a investing activity. Purchase of patents. Here the patents are also a fixed asset. Here the patents are also a fixed asset. So the patents are fixed assets but an intangible assets, so they are also included in investing activity. So yes, it is a investing activity, not a financing or a operating activity. So I am done with my sum number 2. Here in this sum, I have showed you that what are the items that will be included in the investing activity, what will the items you will consider in the investing activities and what are not. In my third sum, I will show you that what are the items that you will consider in your financing activities. Here my third sum is identify which of the following are financing activities. My number 1 item is repayment of loan. Now it's very clear to you that a repayment of loan will always be a financing activity. So yes, it's a financing activity. Number 2, proceeds from issue of shares. You are issuing shares and you are getting proceeds, that you are getting cash by issuing of shares. So it's a financing activity. It's a FA. Number 3, sale of fixed assets. So it's very clear now, as we have done your investing activity sum, that it's not a financing activity, it's an investing activity. Number 4, redemption of preference shares. So always remember whenever there is any case of redemption of whether a preference shares or the debentures, so it will always be a financing activity. There is no issue of investing activity or operating activity. You will always have to consider it as a financing activity. Number 5 item is interest paid or dividend paid. I have made this very clear to you that any interest paid or dividend paid is a financing activity, but when there is a case of a rent paid, then it's a operating activity. My 6th item is underwriting commission paid. It is also a financing activity. So here are some of the list of items, that what are the financing activities and what are not. Now I will show you a mixed sums in which you will get a list of items and you have to identify that whether it's an operating activity, financing activity, investing activity, or whether it's a cash or cash equivalent. So here is my last sum for today, that identify which of the following is operating activities, financing activities, investing activities, or cash equivalents. So you're now very familiar with this OA, FA and IA, and just citing as a OA, FA and IA, and cash or cash equivalent. So you have to identify, I will give you a list of items. We have to identify the whether it's operating, financing, investing, or a cash or cash equivalent. My first item is cash sales. So it's very simple, operating activity. Number 2, rent paid. It's also operating activity. Number 3, cash purchase. It's also operating activity. Number 4, cash balance. It's a cash and cash equivalent. I'm just writing here as C. Number 5, income tax paid. It's your operating activity, as we have done in the previous class. Number 6, bank balance. It's a cash or cash equivalent. I'm just writing here as C. Number 7, sale of machinery. It's your investing activities. Number 8, issue of debentures. Any issue of shares or debentures is also always a financing activity, so it's your financing activity. Number 9, any dividend paid. So it's a financing activity. Number 10, and that's the last one, that's short-term investments. So this is a cash or cash equivalent. Regarding investments, you will say that it's a investing activity, but always remember whenever there is a case of investments, you will always include it in the case of investments, you have to first see that whether it's a short term or a long term. Whenever there is a case of long term investments, you will take it as a investing activity, or whenever there are short term investments, you will always show it as a cash or cash equivalent, as I've taught you this in the previous class. So here I'm done with my sums, since this was my last sum. For the next class, I will show you some of the sums regarding the cash flow statement, what is the format of cash flow statement, and in the format what you have to do, and what will be the items that you will show in your format. So thank you, and please like and subscribe to my channel.